Need healthcare? Make sure you're the right race or age. Hey, this is Tom with Tom's Talk Show, and this is my new channel, doing some more hard-hitting things, making videos about things that really concern me in today's age, and I think it's time. You can't sit back and do nothing anymore. You just can't. I mean, you have to speak up. You have to speak your mind. You have to get your opinion out there. If people disagree with you, fine. Let's sit down. Let's have a conversation. Let's find out. If we can meet in the middle. If we do agree, if there are things that we agree on, stuff like that. But this is my new channel, Tom's Talk Show. If you would go ahead and hit the subscribe button right now, I'd appreciate that. You help get this channel, keep it growing, stuff. But I was watching a Beck video, and he's talking about this thing called the Complete Lives System, and it seems a little crazy. But then doing more research, Glenn does some things, puts some things out that I'm like, okay, well, you're a little nuts sometimes, Glenn, but let's go find out something. Let's see if all this is what's really going on and what's really kind of happening. So I do that because I'm a diligent person. I need information for myself. I need to go find out what actually is happening and what is out there. Don't take the news's word for things. Don't take liberal media's word. Don't take conservative media's word. Go find out for yourself. I mean, we all have computers. We all have the ability to sit down and do searches and find out information. And that's what I did. So plopped right down. Well, I found this graph, this chart. This chart is from the ussenate.gov website. So this is from 2009, which is something that was being referenced in the other video, which is a curve. Looks like this slide was used in some type of presentation. Says the Lancet volume 373 issue 9661 page 423 to 431 January 31st 2009 by this Ezekiel Emanuel person. So the scale on the left hand side, the vertical scale there, is do you get treatment that you need? And then the other scale across the bottom is your age. So if you are just born up to, say, 10 years of age, your chances, his opinion is, you're not viable as a human, you're not producing anything, so you don't get treatment. Also, if you're around 55 and older, you've lived your life, you're fine, you're done, you don't need treatment either. Here's the only treatment that we'll give you, which is, euthanasia. That's his methodology for handling healthcare and, not burdening society with anything. And the other people from the age, say, 10 to 50 years old, you are still viable by his opinion. Now, there are people who are, in their 20s who have mental disabilities, physical disabilities, all those things. I used to work at a company. I worked at a company called Pride Industries, and this company creates jobs for people with disabilities. So to be able to say who's viable and who's not viable is extremely subjective. You have someone has Down syndrome, right? Well, they're not, the parents, they never think, oh, they're never going to have a job. They're not going to be able to live on their own. They're going to be dependent on someone for, heavily for the rest of their life. Well, along comes a company who finds different work items that they can do. One of the work items was extremely simple. So the cable company would go and, people would return their cable boxes and stuff to the store because they're not using it anymore. And then the cables, the power cables and stuff that would come back with those, they needed them cleaned and then refolded and wrapped and put a tie around them and then put, somewhere. So someone with Down syndrome can be shown how to take a cable, clean it with, alcohol thing to disinfect it, which is what they had to do, and then fold it, into a thing and put a tie around it and put it in a box. That was a contract that we had. That was something that someone could do. And they were getting paid to do that. And because they were getting paid, that gave them an income. Because they had that income, they were able to live on their own in a community like apartment with other people who were similar. There was still a caretaker there at the apartment, but the parents would come and, they'd send us letters, and just be, everybody in the room, after they read these letters would just be in tears, just, because these parents think that their kid that had these problems, of no flaw of their own, just genetically when they were, born had this problem. And now they're viable in society, right? They have a job. They're doing something. They have a living. They go to the grocery store. We had buses that would take them and transport them to the grocery store, help them do different things, get them independence. The parent thinking from, they're going to be just in their other room for the rest of their life because they can never do anything, now being completely independent. And this Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel thinks, oh, if you're, 30 years old, you're viable, but then when you're 60, you're not, based on no other qualifications other than your age, obviously has not ever been to a company like Pride Industries, who nationwide, runs a lot of facilities and sets up a lot of things for different companies, runs parts and supplies divisions at military bases, runs cafeteria things at military bases, keeping at military bases, all using people with disabilities. But that's not what the government wants. So here we go. Certain states, several Democratic-run cities, are giving preference to non-white patients for receiving potentially life-saving COVID treatments. Minnesota State Health Department is using a scoring system to award points to patients with certain risk factors such as chronic kidney disease and diabetes. Well, so if you stop that right there, okay. So people who have comorbidities, people who are definitely at risk, I would say, yes, you treat them over someone who's going to get slight flu symptoms and be fine, right? If you've got a limited supply of monoclonal antibodies, and there are people who are heavily at risk for the only facts of they have diabetes, high blood pressure, kidney problems, things like that, yeah. Prioritize them over people who are very healthy, not in a risk group. Come in there and say, well, here's some antibiotics, here's, some hydroxychloroquine, some ivermectin, just go home and take that. Boom, you'll be done. Am I giving you medical advice? No, I have to say that. We're not giving any medical advice. I'm just saying this is kind of how it should be done, because if you don't say if you try and give any medical advice here on the crazy YouTube or say anything about that, they obviously delete your video, which I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just saying what I would think would happen. Okay. Holy crap, this gets crazy. Freedom of speech, people. Freedom of speech. Anyway, so if you stop there, that's fine. I'm fine right up to there. Yes, do risk factors for people. If you are an 85-year-old person with diabetes, please treat them. Treat them with everything that you can possibly treat them. But they go on and say the department's scoring also gives 2 additional points to Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Well, right there, you're blowing it away. Right there, you're failing, because now you're doing reverse racism, right? Well, that's just racism. There really is not reverse racism. That's just racism against Asians, against white people, against Hispanic people. Now you're going against that, right? Now we're reverse racism. We're doing twisted racism. So do I think that anybody who comes into the hospital, irregardless of their gender, skin color, whatever kind of pronouns they want to use, how many tattoos they have, how many body piercings they have, do I think any of that should be a factor in whether or not they get treated? No, never. The basic risk factors would be, do you have any underlying health conditions that are going to make this really bad for you? End of story. And are those health conditions would be age or, diabetes, high blood pressure, those kinds of things, right? That's it. Nothing else. Once you start adding things onto it like this, you're really this isn't legal. This is definitely illegal. So there are also, in the National Library of Medicine, there are articles and papers posted about this and how to use it. Some of them get very critical, reviews. Says this is their complete life system incorporates several principles, including ones that prescribe saving the most lives, preserving the most life years, giving priority to persons between 50 and 40 years old. So I'm no longer priority. I no longer have anything to say. I no longer have any ability to, get treatment over somebody else between 15 and 40. So completely wrong. And you think, Glenn Beck brings up these things, you think that, oh, he's just making all this stuff up, whatever. No, I've already found independent resources outside of what he showed. He didn't even show anything. He was just reading some things. I found these are independent things outside of what he was talking about. Additional support for this stuff. Additional evidence. And this is what Obamacare was based on. I found that this is all what Obamacare was based on. That once you get everybody paying into the system, you need all of the old people to die off so you don't drain the system of money. And you need the people who are, 14, 15 to start working so they can start paying into the system to make it work. Yeah. And here he is. Ezekiel Manuel gleefully predicts the death of private health insurance. This is March 2014. So this is, 5-6 years right after he posted that. Right once Obamacare starts kicking in. He's saying, good news, you won't have insurance companies kicking around anymore. No, because you won't really have any health care. Maybe 15 to 40, you might. Anything outside of that, forget it. You're not getting anything. Here's a pill, go off and die, is what it's going to be. Yeah. We need to watch this stuff. We need to be aware of this stuff. We need to be aware that this stuff is coming down and this stuff is being put upon us, and they're using COVID to push it on us. So if you're in a blue state, I'm sorry for you. Maybe this will wake you up and you'll start voting differently and get people who actually care about you. Most of the time, I think nobody in government cares about any of us other than, tax money. So, yeah. There you go. Independent research, independent evidence supporting what Glenn Beck was saying about this complete live system. I hate it. I hate it when I find that. I would rather find something that was completely the other way, that this wasn't true at all. But it's not. All right, what do you think? Are we being routed? Are we being cattle moved in for slaughter at a certain age? Do you think this is just one or two little spots that's it's going to go away after the election and it'll all be taken away and it'll be fine? What do you what's your side of it? Tell me what you think in the comments, and of course subscribe to this new channel. Help me keep it going, and I'll keep finding more information like this. This is this is important. This is something every American needs to know. All right, thanks for watching. Take care.